feet high or tens of feet high, but they're going to be miles high. And so the oceans will wash over the continents, and that probably would do in most people on Earth.
If there were survivors, they would be huddled on the remaining patches of high ground.
The psychological effects on everyone would be pretty bad. You know that it was over, that basically our existence on Earth as we knew it was over. When you finally get close enough for the black hole's gravity to start dominating the gravity of the Earth, then you start hearing the sucking sound as the atmosphere is sucked off through space towards the black hole, followed by everything that isn't nailed down on the surface of the Earth.
What will your body do in response? Your body will begin to stretch. Now, the body's kind of elastic. You know, you can stretch a little bit. That's what you do before you work out. You stretch. So it might even feel good at first. But then the difference in force of gravity will continue to grow. And there'll be a point where it will become decidedly uncomfortable for you.
Your feet would be ripped off of your body, followed by your legs, torso, etc.
You're 1 piece, 2 pieces, 4 pieces, 8 pieces, 16, 32, 64, and you bifurcate your way all the way down to the singularity. I think if you gotta go, that's gotta be fun. If I were to pick a way to die cosmically, that would be the way to do it, for sure.
If I knew that the world
We live in a world where science fiction is becoming real life all the time. When many of us were growing up, computer chips and cell phones lived only in the imaginations of writers and scientists. Now we can't imagine life without them. And that is the making of number 6 on our countdown of threats to civilization. Where will technology lead us? Will catering to our convenience be the death of us?
Computers can, in principle, emulate human intelligence, or even better it. The result is that computers are likely to overtake humans in intelligence at some point in the next 100 years.
As a species, we are number 1. We're the dominant species.
How is it that we've got that way? I believe it's our intellectual capabilities. So if something comes along that intellectually outperforms us, then it has the potential to take over.
Man versus machine. It is a battle that's been a staple in popular culture for all of modern times. The idea sells a lot of movie tickets, but could machines really outsmart humans? To most, it sounds like a joke.
My God! They've already mastered stairs! In a very real sense, they are stairmasters!
But some of the top scientists in the field of artificial intelligence aren't laughing. They say that massively intelligent machines could actually threaten humanity.
Will it be possible for humanity to create creatures, machines, that are so powerful, so intelligent, that there's a genuine risk they could wipe us out? Yes, definitely.
But so far, massively intelligent machines don't exist. To understand how they will become a reality, scientists say, just do the math.
The electronic capacity you can put into a chip nowadays is doubling roughly every year or so. Common sense, if you take any old number and you multiply it by 2, by 2, by 2, by 2, by 2, after a while you'll end up with a huge number, and that's the case today.
60 years ago, the world's most powerful computer weighed 30 tons. Today, a device billions of times more powerful can fit into your pocket.
So at what stage could machines start becoming smart enough to be a threat, approaching human intelligence levels, and in a sense, answering back?
Artificial intelligence has already given us computers smart enough to diagnose our illnesses, run our factories, invest our money, even beat us at chess. In 1997, a supercomputer named Deep Blue was able to defeat humanity's best chess player, Garry Kasparov.
Kasparov, after the move c4, has resigned.
I see the potential of these machines becoming not just like double human intelligence, or 5 times or 10 times, but literally trillions of times. And that's a big problem.
The more advanced our technology becomes, the more control we give it. Where will it stop?
What it is really is humans giving up the power, giving up the ultimate decision-making to the machine, and then, in the military sense, one can see the power to do something about those decisions.
The military has already developed a stable of unmanned vehicles still controlled by humans, but the eventual goal of the military is to create a technology which will give machines the power to make life or death decisions on their own.
We're setting up machines to do things to humans, and not particularly pleasant things to humans in many cases. I think if they just had a small fraction of humanity in them, machines, then they're going to be awful.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
In 1968, director Stanley Kubrick gave us the HAL 9000, a super-intelligent computer known affectionately as HAL.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me, and I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
In a high-tech version of self-defense, HAL takes charge and outsmarts and kills some of the astronauts.
That's one of the major risks, that if we produce these godlike creatures, they may turn against us.
The astronauts were able to turn HAL off, but what if a computer like HAL was connected to millions of other computers?
They would virtually be in control of everything, our economy, our medical systems, our water, whatever. So if they took it into their heads to, if they had heads, whatever, into their intelligences to exterminate us, I don't see that being a major challenge for them.
Scientists say it would be just like a scene out of the science fiction film The Terminator, only this time life would imitate art.
In 1 hour, it will initiate a massive nuclear attack on its enemy.
What enemy? Us! Humans!
It's like walking towards a sheer drop on a cliff face and saying, yeah, let's put some more intelligence into machines. Everything looks all right. And in the end, we just fall off the cliff. We've given machines too much power, too much intelligence, and it's too late.
Underneath Yellowstone National Park, there is a force that has the power to plunge the world into darkness.
There'd be men's hearts failing for fear, sheer panic.
It would be every man for himself.
Coming up, the number 5 threat on our countdown.
Number 5 on our countdown is a threat closer to home. In fact, don't look up, look down, because what lies beneath could really rock your world.
There's no doubt, and many people have said this before, but we exist on this planet purely by nature's consent. If nature decides she's had enough, we're out.
Many of the threats we face come from above. However, only one comes from beneath. What we think of as solid ground, the Earth's crust, is only 25 miles deep, and beneath that is a pressurized ocean of molten rock looking for a way out. Occasionally, it finds one. Case in point, Pompeii, on the Bay of Naples in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius.
What Vesuvius tells us and what Pompeii tells us is that the worst thing that you could conceive from an active volcano will ultimately happen. August
24th, 79 AD. It started with earthquakes. Hours later, there was a massive explosion.
We use the word erupt in our everyday language to describe something that happened suddenly and unexpectedly. Vesuvius erupted into their lives.
An entire city frozen at the moment of destruction. The people who died, buried in ash, a testament to the frightening power of the blast.
But you've only got to look at the dead of the Herculaneum waterfront, where the skeletons, when they've been studied, well, you can see there are scorch marks on the inside of the skull, where the gas cloud came down. It was so hot that it set the brain on fire. And the gases then had to break out from the skull to be released. That's the power, locally, of something like that. And that's tiny compared to the most modest supervolcanic eruption.
A supervolcano really is a volcano which generates the biggest eruptions that we know about. Now, that means something big enough, for example, to cover the entire UK or the entire state of Connecticut, I suppose, in a vast amount of debris, sort of 10 metres deep. Mount St. Helens looked spectacular, looked devastating, killed around about 60 people, but in fact, a super eruption is at least 1,000 times bigger than that.
Unlike regular volcanoes, supervolcanoes are massive canyons or calderas, hundreds of miles across, making them so big they're hard to find. Although scientists estimate there could be as many as 40 scattered around the globe, no one knows for sure. What they can tell us, however, is that sooner or later one will erupt.
The bottom line is that when one of these eruptions occurs, it's going to be a global disaster. The only question is when and where.
Rapid City, South Dakota, a peaceful town on the edge of the Great Plains. When authorities here think about catastrophes, they certainly don't think about volcanoes.
As far as disasters go, we have large forest fires, blizzards, small amount of flooding on a small scale.
Few here realize that just over 400 miles away under Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, there's an underground lake of lava that has the potential to make Rapid City look like Pompeii.
Yellowstone is a supervolcano. There's a giant magma chamber underneath Yellowstone. It's erupted in the past, and an eruption, we think, of Yellowstone is overdue.
Yellowstone experiences a super eruption about once every 600,000 years. The last one was over 630,000 years ago, and when it went off, the prairie that today is Rapid City was buried under 8 feet of ash.
A volcano that can carry that much ash and put 4, 6, 8 feet even of ash down upon us. I mean, that's an event of I guess what you'd call biblical proportions, and I don't know how you would prepare for something like that.
It is especially hard to prepare when scientists can't tell us exactly what the warning signs are.
We haven't seen a supervolcanic eruption, so we're not sure about what we will see. But one of the things that we would expect would be increased earthquake activity, an increase in the small geyser eruptions that you get in Yellowstone.
The increased seismic activity under Yellowstone would be caused by the massive lake of superheated liquid rock called magma, forcing its way toward the surface.
When that would turn from warning signals to there's going to be an eruption is unclear. We may not, however, get much notice that the eruption's about to happen.
The Bible does say that, in the last days there'd be an increase of earthquakes in many places. It sounds a little trite, but the Bible says when you see these things happen, look up, for your redemption draws nigh.
We might only get a few minutes' notice that a series of eruptions were about to begin.
If you can imagine the chamber, so these fingers of magma are going to reach the surface, and when they reach the surface, the eruption begins. One can imagine that rather than there being one spot around Yellowstone, you may get half a dozen of these, or a dozen or more, erupting around the caldera. And as these erupt, they're emptying the magma chamber, and as the magma chamber gets empty, the roof of it becomes vulnerable. There's nothing holding it up anymore, and then that collapses into the magma chamber, and then the magma chamber is open to the outside wall. So all of a sudden, all this pressure is released, and that's when the whole thing injects itself into the stratosphere. That's when it really goes.
In Rapid City, those watching live television images from the park would suddenly